Happy Friday, everybody. I wanted to come on really quick. This is Dr. Delicia Haynes, the founder and CEO of Family First Health Center, double board certified in family medicine and obesity medicine. And I wanted to come on. I'm actually in Kentucky. I'm in my old Kentucky home in Frankfort, Kentucky. Came up to visit my parents and just wanted to still make sure I came on and showed some love to you all. You may hear some four-wheeling in the background, so just FYI. But I wanted to come on and just share a little bit. Again, my name is Dr. Delicia Haynes, and I'm known in Daytona Beach as being the founder and CEO of Family First Health Center and being double board certified in family medicine and obesity medicine. But what I'm really passionate about also is being and shining a light of hope for medical students so that they can overcome stress and depression. And so that's one of the reasons that I come on and I do these live streams, is really to focus on that. And this week I wanted to talk about the importance of respecting yourself and standing up for yourself. And I don't usually watch television at all, but because I come home and I've been home, hey, thank you. I have been, watching television because that's what my mom was doing, and that's who I was hanging out with. And so, you can't escape what's going on, in our country right now. And it's been tough because I've definitely been one. I've got a lot of friends who were athletes back when I was an athlete, who were falsely accused of things and lost their scholarships and their childhood dreams, only to find out later that they had friends who were survivors of sexual assault who never told anyone because they knew that no one would believe them, and but they knew that they would have to face some consequences. And at the end of the day, it's important that you stand up for yourself, and you speak your truth, and that yes, there will be some consequences to doing that, but you're the only person that's guaranteed to be around for your entire life, and it's important that you're able to stand and look at yourself in the mirror and be happy and proud of the person that's looking back at you. And not too long ago, I was hanging out with the residents, and the residents are about 10 years younger than me, but I enjoy hanging out with them. And one of them was telling a story about this female resident several years ago. He kind of went on and on about how long ago it was, and that she was, assaulted by an attending, and that she, got him fired. And as he was telling the story, I realized at one point, wait a minute, he's talking about me. And I kind of, I let him kind of tell the story because it's interesting hearing, kind of your story told in someone else's voice. And then I got to correct him, and I was like, well, okay, so that who you're talking about is actually me. First of all, it wasn't that long ago, because I'm only 10 years older than these people. But I was a fourth-year medical student, and I was doing my family medicine rotation at Halifax, and I was working at the health department. And so we would go in and we would examine the patients, and then we'd come out and we would talk to our attending. And so we were all standing, and my attending was sitting, and there were some other people who had enough seats, and there weren't enough seats for everyone. So of course I, as the fourth year medical student, was standing and doing my presentation, and he was, what's called pimping, when your attending asks you a ton of questions, basically until you get some wrong, but they're just asking you question after question. And he was pimping me and asking me all these questions, and then someone vacated the seat next to him, and so he wanted me to sit down, and so he smacked me on my butt and pointed to the seat in order for me to sit down. And for a slight second, I almost hit him, because while being at UK and being a student, I've been in a lot of circumstances where I've had to stand up for myself, and I've been yelled at and all of that, disrespected. That was the first time that anyone had ever kind of really touched me, and he was from that kind of an older school where back in the day when it was okay for bosses to slap their secretaries on the butts and that sort of thing. And I really don't think he even realized he did anything wrong. and he was just continued to just ask me questions. And I was stumped, one, because I didn't know the answer to the question, but also because I was in this moment of like, did he really just do that? And afterward, I turned to my fellow, he was a resident, and I was a fourth-year medical student, but kind of this upper-level resident, and I was like, did you see that? And he was just kind of looking at me because he didn't know what to do either, and was like, yeah, how did that make you feel? And I was like, it felt terrible. And I told the resident, kind of the upper level residents, chief residents, and everyone thought that day was my last day. But it wasn't. Actually, the next day was my last day. But they, thinking that day was my last day, they went and they told the program director what had happened. And so the next day, I come in, which is my last day, and I've got my cards to say thank you to everyone who's helped in my education. This was definitely, Halifax was definitely the place where I wanted to do my residency, so I was hoping that I made a good impression on them, and I was expecting this last day to be this joyous occasion. And I walk in, and the residents look at me, and they're like, oh my gosh, we didn't know that you were coming in today. We kind of told them what happened, which means that you're probably going to have to meet with them. And so rather than my last day being this kind of joyous occasion where I was just thanking everyone, I basically kind of got called into the principal's office to describe, exactly what had happened. And I remember the manager at the time was like, when he hit you on the butt, is that why you didn't know what had happened or know the answer to the question? And I was like, well, no, I didn't know the answer to the question. Don't really see how that really fits, what's going on right now. But it was just one of those really awkward situations. I left thinking that there's no way that I'm going to get into this residency program now because, I haven't even started as a resident and I'm already probably being labeled as a troublemaker. But I still ranked them number one, and I hoped that they would rank me high as well, even though that was the note that I kind of, left on. And I, did match at Halifax, and I didn't know what happened in the interim as far as what happened to that particular attending. I just know that when I started there in 2005 as a first-year resident, that he was no longer there, and I was pleased about that I didn't have to kind of. I was wondering how I was going to handle that situation, and I would have handled it, but it was definitely not a situation I was looking forward to handling. But I had to commend the program director on how they responded, and they told me that they were going to go and talk to the other individual, make sure they got every side of the story and all that. And so at the end of the day, I think that it's really important that you always are telling your truth. Yes, there are consequences. Yes, it's going to put you in some awkward situations. But part of having self-respect and part of being happy and being healthy mentally is having a good relationship with yourself. And in order to respect yourself, it's important that you stand up for yourself and that you stand up for the people around you that you care about. So I just wanted to come on really quick and mention that. I thought it wasn't what I planned to talk about, but I thought that it was relevant. And I think it's important to remember that, again, the only person that's guaranteed to be around for your entire life is you. And it's important that you're able to look at yourself in the mirror and be happy and proud of the accomplishments that you've made. And just as important as the things that you are standing up for, and especially, standing up for the person that's going to be there for you no matter what, which is you. So this weekend, have a wonderful weekend and make sure that you stand up for yourself. Take care.